This conference will now be recorded.
Right, let's start today's session. So in the last session, we just finished about core Python concepts. And from today onwards, I'm going to discuss about advanced Python. And in this advanced Python concepts, first of all, it starts with object-oriented programming. See, Python is structured-oriented. We will discuss many data structures. Python is functional-oriented, and we have completed functions. Okay, how to prepare function with the name, how to call the function, all these things. And Python is a object oriented. Now we are talking about object oriented programming. So object oriented programming. Okay, object oriented programming. These we can call it as OOPS concepts. OOPS concept. There is no meaning of yes here. The only apostrophe yes. Okay, there is no meaning of yes like system or software or service, nothing. Only object oriented programming. So here, if your programming language is object oriented, then what are the main advantages? Advantages means what? Benefits. Actually, what are the benefits means security, sir. Security we can provide to our code. Next advantage or benefit is reusability. Reusability. And next thing is application enhancement. Application enhancement. Enhancement, application enhancement. This is security, reusability, application enhancement. Security means code security I'm speaking. I'm not speaking about user security. Code security means whenever we write logic code in one class, the class code should be secured for not accessing into other classes. Okay, within the class only you have to provide to access. So in that case, security implementation is possible for do not access any variables and methods into outside the class. So code security is very clearly achieved with the help of object-oriented programming. And then reusability is one of the major advantage in object-oriented programming. So reusability means one time you can implement the logic and you can use many times in your application without rewriting again and again. And reusability is possible with object-oriented programming. And other one is application enhancement. For example, as per client requirement, you just implement the application code. Later, after few days or few months, same clients need some more extra requirement like they want to provide additional services to their customers. So what we need to do, we have to enhance the features for the application by adding some extra logic for existing application code. That is application enhancement. These are the advantages or benefits of object-oriented programming, but these are not features of object-oriented programming. Okay. But in object-oriented programming, mainly we need to discuss about two terms. One is class and another one is object. These two terms will be involved every time while writing script of object-oriented programming. So here, what is class? See here, class is a collection of variables and methods. Yes, inside the class, generally, we will include collection of variables and methods. Class is a collection of variables, variables and methods. Variables and methods. Yes, class is a collection of variables and methods. You can include any type of variable. There are so many types of variables out there. Inside the class, we can include instance variables, static variables, class local variables like that. And methods also different methods, instance method, class method, static methods, and so on. So all methods and variables inside the class only we have to declare. This is a class. And implementation also we can do with the methods and variables only. Okay. So that's what a class is, a collection of variables and methods. Next, one more thing, object is there. Object is an instance of class. Object is an instance of class, or it is used to represent a class. It is used to represent a class actually. What is an object? It is instance. Instance means reference. Who will refer the class? Object will refer the class. It is instance of class or it is used to represent a class. That's what you can see. It is object-oriented programming. I'm saying like class-oriented. Heading is object-oriented. So object will be involved. Object through we will do more things. Suppose after implementation of the class with all group of variables and methods, if you want to access that implementation or if you want to consume that, then we need to create object for the class. Compulsory it is. So these two terms will be involved in object-oriented programming every time when we implement the logic. But apart from class and object, any programming language wants to become as object-oriented, then that programming language must and should satisfy the following features. So these are features of object-oriented programming. Features of object-oriented programming. So what are the features of object-oriented programming? One is encapsulation. Next one is abstraction. Next, polymorphism. Next, inheritance. These are the features of object-oriented programming. Encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance. See, today I'm going to discuss what is what, okay, what is encapsulation and abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance. But in upcoming sessions, once we complete introduction of object-oriented programming and basic programming of object-oriented, then we will start clearly encapsulation, how to implement and where we can use this in real-time scenario with practical implementation. Coding through, I'll explain you each and every features. But today I'm just going to give the overview of these object-oriented programming features. So what is encapsulation here? See, encapsulation is the process of providing restrictions, providing restriction to access variables and methods. Restriction, encapsulation is the process of providing restriction to access variables and methods. Yes. Why we need to provide restriction to access variables and methods? The reason is for what we can say, if someone is trying to modify the variables and methods, we don't allow them to modify the variables and methods. So that's what I need to provide some restriction to access variables and methods. So actually why we need encapsulation means, why we need encapsulation means to prevent the data from modification. To prevent the data from modification, we can say that. Yes. If someone is trying to modify your data, we can prevent that. So in that way, we can provide restriction. But generally, how do we achieve encapsulation mechanism means we can achieve we can achieve the encapsulation. We can achieve the encapsulation by using private variables and methods. Private variables and methods means we have to make our variables and methods are private only. Private means what? We have clear restriction. Yes. So for example, the variable is private or method is private, that can be able to access only within the same class where we declare. In case you can say a variable is a public and method is a public, that can be able to access anywhere. There is no restriction. So public variables and public methods are having no restriction, and that can be able to access at any time and anywhere in our program. But if you want to provide restriction to access your variables and methods, and we can make the variables and methods are private. Private variables and private methods can only be accessed where we declare them, and outside the class has no permission. So in that we can provide restriction to access our variables. Generally, why we need to provide restriction to our variables and method means if to prevent the data from modification. If someone is trying to modify the variable data, or someone is trying to modify the method logic, that I don't want to allow. So just make the private variables and methods. That's not possible. So this is exactly encapsulation. We'll talk about this encapsulation in detail in upcoming session with practical implementation one by one feature. And abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation. Abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation but providing the service. Hiding the implementation but providing the service. Abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation but providing the service. Why we should hide the implementation? For security reason. Suppose I have a logic, I implement lot of logic according to my application requirement. But some other programmers are asking some logic, for example. If I disclose my logic to everyone and I feel that there is no security for my code, so what can I do that? I can hide the implementation, but through my implementation, what result and service I'm getting, same result and service I can share to other programmers or other classes. So they can only access the result or service. They can't see what exactly implementation, how I implement, where I implement. They don't know. That is exactly abstraction feature. For security reason, I'm trying to use this abstraction feature. Implementation can be hide and accessibility can be open. Means logic code is completely hide. Logic code I'm not going to disclose to anyone. Through that logic code, what service, what result I'm getting, that service I can share to them. They'll only access the result or service. They don't know what I implement, how I implement, where I implement, no matter it is. So for security reason, in general, we use abstraction in our object-oriented programming. This is also one of the important feature in object-oriented programming. Suppose you can see so many concepts under comes into abstraction. For example, you are accessing some website in our daily life. Suppose for doing transactions, banking transactions, all those things, you are going to visit a website like ICICbank.com, SBI.com, like that. So that website is only providing service to you, service to customers, service to bank account holders, to do some transactions, to send amount, to receive amount, all those things like this. Okay, but you can't see that what was the logic behind that. So are they provide logic or implementation part to the every customer, how their transaction is implemented internally? No, they are only provide a service. You have to utilize the service. You should not know that what was implementation behind this. This is abstraction. And at the same time, for example, you are you brought a product from a particular showroom or something. So after working that product 1 month after, then product is not going to be work properly. For example, imagine that. And simply what we need to do, you have to raise the complaint to customer care people. So they will send some service person to your home. And the service person responsibility is what? He will check the product, what is the problem, and he'll rectify, and he will leave that premises. So you can't ask them, no, what is the problem? If please tell me what you did next time whenever we face this problem, same thing we'll did from our end means they'll not disclose the information because they are only service providers. You are only service receiver. You need not to know that implementation, what they did. Okay, that is hide the implementation. Implementation part they'll hide, but only they'll give service. So here also in logically, so many actions we will perform, so many services we can perform on the web especially. But all the services, all the transactions, all the works what we done in web daily basis. So behind the scenes there was lot of actions will play, but that action result we will not see that. So only that they are providing services to customers only. So this is abstraction feature. We will also implement abstraction in our object-oriented programming. And then third feature is polymorphism. Poly means many and morph means behavior. In term polymorphism, poly means many and morph means behavior. Morph means behavior like this. Morph means behavior. In term polymorphism, poly means many and morph means behavior. For example, if we take in object-oriented programming, uh, if we take any function, okay, or method. So generally we call previously in core Python point of view, we create a function with def keyword. But same functions whenever we try to create now onwards, especially in object-oriented programming, under the class what we created, that you can pronounce as method. Okay, so pronounce is different, but there is no difference between function and method. You can call anyone. So in object-oriented programming scenario, better to call that as a function method only instead of calling function. And in polymorphism, a method can show different behavior depends on situation. For example, one method is there. That method is having two parameters. Whenever we call that method, we have to supply two parameters. No? Again, same method is there. That method is having three parameters. Our method is don't have parameters. So every time method can react differently. So method behavior is different. So that nature is called polymorphism. Even method or operator. For example, you can take plus operator. Plus operator is for adding two numbers. Same plus operator is for concatenation of strings. So operator is only one, but it's doing multiple behavior, multiple tasks. That is polymorphism. But here, for example, as a human being, we are the best example of polymorphism nature because depends on situation, our behavior is there. Our behavior is with our family member is different. Our behavior with friends is different. Our behavior with outside the person's different. One person can act differently. That is polymorphism nature. And generally, polymorphism can be of two types in Python oriented. Like one is static polymorphism, or it also called as actually compile time polymorphism. Next one is dynamic polymorphism, or it also called as dynamic polymorphism, or we can call it as uh, static dynamic compile runtime. Yes, runtime polymorphism. So we can achieve this static polymorphism, means method behavior at the time of compilation time. This concept is called overloading. And now coming to this dynamic polymorphism, this is comes into overriding. Overriding. So overriding concept comes into polymorphism. Overloading means what? Simple. As a person, if you have already some work to do, again you will have some other work assigned by someone. So you will get overload because you have to do keep on extra tasks. And overriding means in place of that existing task, new task assigned. That is overriding. In place of that, we have to do other task. So overriding means replacement technique. Overloading means refinement technique. Every time you should keep on changing the code during the compilation of the program. That is overloading. And that automatically the code gets changed or code gets replaced during the execution time, during the program execution time. That is overriding. So overriding concepts comes into polymorphism. We'll talk about this overriding with practical implementation, with program oriented in later sessions. And next, coming to this last feature, but not least very important, inheritance is there. Inheritance is one of the important feature of object-oriented programming. Inheritance is the process of creating new class from existing class. Inheritance is the process of creating new class from existing class. Here, in this inheritance process, existing class is treated as parent class or base class, base class, base class, or superclass. In inheritance process, existing class is treated as parent class or base class or superclass. Newly created class is treated as inheritance process. New class means that is child class or derived class or subclass. This is subclass. Existing class, that is parent class or base class or superclass. New class means child class or derived class or subclass. Okay, so that is the case. So it is the process of creating new class from existing class. But the main advantage of inheritance is the reusability and extensibility. Means in inheritance process, generally, whatever we have implementation in the parent class, that implementation by default available to the child class. That means child class will get always all features from the parent class. Just like how we get properties and assets from our parents by default. Same here in object-oriented programming. What logic you implemented in parent class, that logic by default will come to the child. Child can able to access all functionalities of its parent, but parent can never access child functionalities. So in this case, inheritance through what we will do, we can achieve reusability and application enhancement. Reusability means what? So reusability means once we write the object-oriented programming logic in one class, that same logic we can able to extend into other class. That is reusability case. So reusability means this is an existing class and base class, super class can be used into child classes, derived classes, subclasses. This child classes will get from parent class. You can use any terminology. The combination is fixed. Like child means parent, you have to say that. Derived means base, we have to say that. Sub means super, you have to say that. Super or sub, base or derived, parent or child. There are different types of inheritances are there again. So not only one type, so different types of inheritances. and different way we have to extend the logic, we have to reuse the logic. Types of inheritances. One is single inheritance. Next one is multiple inheritance. Next, multi-level is there. Multi-level, multi-level inheritance. Next, hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance. Next, hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. These are all inheritances we'll discuss clearly when I start with inheritance concept. Single inheritance means what? How we should work with single inheritance. Multiple, multi-level, hybrid, hierarchical. These are all inheritances. How to work with that, we'll discuss. But main advantage of inheritance is reusability and extensibility. Reusability means whatever we have implementation in parent class, that directly we can able to use into child class without re-implementing again in child class. So this is the features of object-oriented programming, and this is the basic introduction of object-oriented programming. Okay, so I'm going to start programming part. Before going to start programming part, I need to give some two syntaxes here, because mainly in object-oriented programming, you need to know how to prepare a class. So I'm giving syntax to create a class. Syntax to create a class. Syntax to create a class. So what is the syntax to create a class here? You can see it. So generally, the syntax to create a class is different in Python as well as different in other existing languages like Java, C#, .NET or something. So here only you should focus the syntax of Python way also. So I'm creating syntax to create a class name I'm giving here. Okay. Example is class is a keyword, class name is student, for example. And I strongly recommend to use a class name starting letter as capital. This is just in real-time naming convention. And even if you don't give the starting letter as capital also, no problem, it will work. But just try to habituate to write this class name starting letter as capital. Okay. And colon is compulsory here. This is the class keyword and class name is there. And only class is not enough in object-oriented programming. And after implementing the class, and we have to consume the class functionalities, then how to consume the class functionalities? So by creating object of its class. So how to create object to the class? Here I'm taking syntax to create object to the class. Syntax to create object to the class. So what is the syntax to create object to the class here? Simple. Object reference variable name or object name, anyone you can take, equals to class name. Example, object reference variable name is S equals to what is your class name? Student. Now you can see object reference variable name means the variable which is used to refer an object is called object reference variable, or else we can say object also. This is object. In this case, S is an object. This is going to represent always what class? Student class. This is the class name. And later, whatever you implement in this student class, the functions, like methods, variables, every logic, we can able to consume by using this object only. Okay. So this is class creation syntax and object creation syntax. Let's try to implement a program quickly. So today we'll see a basic programming structure of object-oriented programming. And Mr. Vishnuvardhan, I thought you have not joined for this course. So I'm extremely sorry for that. Yesterday I went to my institute. So they have updated me while by accidentally while checking the mails. So your mail is there in their list, but unfortunately your mail is not there in my list. I thought that you have dropped, but they said that already you joined. But their mistake, that is, they have not updated me. So there was a lot of big miscommunication happened regarding you. For that, I am extremely sorry. That's what I shared that all Python videos and material yesterday and the link also. Otherwise, you may attend from the last 10 days onwards also. But I'm really sorry for that. But even you should mail me, no, at least. So, and this batch, you have joined for complete package course, I think so. So already I have started Django also at 8 a.m. after finishing this. So if you want to join with Django, you can continue with 8 a.m. also. Django link I'll provide to you in our WhatsApp group. Okay, if you want to join, or else if you don't have time to join at 8 a.m., so you just wait for completion of this 7 a.m. Python. Then after that, we'll start Django at 7 a.m. Then you can able to join and decide that and tell me. But anyway, I'm sending Django videos also, which we completed already. Those who are opted for Python package and those who are attending my Django sessions at 8 a.m. So I have uploaded some Django videos, Django complete material also I have uploaded. And moreover, we have WhatsApp group for Python students. I'll send the WhatsApp group link also. Okay. And at the end of the session, please let me know that you like to attend Django also parallelly at 8 a.m. So yes means I'll send the link for Django also to your mail now. Okay. You can decide that. Or else only if you want to attend, you can attend this Python only at this moment. Later, if you want to join Django at 7 a.m., you can decide that. And at the end of the class, you can just tell me so that I can share the link for Django also at 8 a.m. Immediately after this, we will cover Django sessions. And this is our project where we, yes, Python project 7 a.m. Now you can see this is, yeah, previously we completed core Python and now going to start with advanced Python programming, that is object-oriented programming. And here I'm showing one class how to prepare here. So this is my class preparation, then class keyword is required, and class name is just I'm taking student. And now here I'm just creating some description about my class. So this is a student class. This is a student class to display student details. Student details like this. Sir, I want to get the description about the class. How I can get that? Simple. So we have a class now, student class. But to get the description or implementation, what was there in this class, to get complete description, there are two options are there. Option number one, directly you can use help of student class. Help is a built-in function to get help of any Python object. So help of student means we are getting this student class information. Now you can see. So help on class student in module main, class student. This is a student class to display student details. Okay. Yes. Other than this one, help of student. So we can create object to the class first. S is my object name. Student is a class. And to get the information related to this class, S dot underscore underscore doc doc. So what is this doc? Document. This is the special method in object-oriented programming. From now onwards, you can observe here, wherever I'm going to use this kind of special methods, like starting with a double underscore, ending with a double underscore, and which is the color called pink color combination. This is called special methods or magic methods, we can call it as. and S is my object reference. So this is having reference of the class. So obviously S dot documentation means S is refer what? Student class. Student class information we got this. This is student class and to display student details like this. Got my point? Yes. But this is just basic example, but I don't want to do this one. I want to implement some actual logic of the class. So this is student class. Let me take one constructor here, def underscore underscore init. Just observe clearly. Whenever I type init means initialization. That stands for. So it's a predefined. Okay, it's a predefined. As soon as when we press enter, automatically the initialization takes place of self is a special variable here. I'll talk about this initialization constructor part in tomorrow's session in clear detail. But today, just I want to introduce one simple program, how to implement object-oriented programming structure you can understand. So DEF is nothing but generally what purpose we use to define a function. But when it comes to here, to define a method, yes, it is a special method. And this is what actually constructor. Okay, I'll talk about this constructor rules and regulations in tomorrow's session. Don't worry. And you know, in Java point of view, as well as C Sharp.NET point of view, yes, the two languages also very powerful object-oriented programming languages. In their point of view, the constructor name should be same as class name. There was a rule in those languages. But when it comes to Python, constructor name is always this is only init underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So initialization we can say that. By default, constructor is having one parameter that is called self. Self is the first parameter of the constructor, and self is used to access current class members. So I'll talk about this self and init in clear details in tomorrow's session. Right now, I want to initialize the values for the constructor data like SID. Self.SID means student ID 1234. Self.SName equals to student name Sai. Self.SAddress equals to HYD like this one. Okay. So def underscore underscore init is a constructor. So when constructor will execute, as soon as when we create object to the class, then constructor will execute. Suppose here I'm creating object to the class S equals to student. This is object creation. As soon as when we create object to the class, constructor will execute. But constructor generally will do what? It will take initialization part. Initialization means values will be assigned to the variables. These values will be assigned to the variables. But after that, I want to display these student details. So display method I have to take. Method name can be of any name, not only display here. Any name we can take. Through this method, what I'm writing, I'm writing my description. Student ID is, then self.sid. Print student name is, then self.sname. Print student address is. Just printing student details here. Student address is self.s address like that. Okay. So this is what method. This method can be of any name. You can decide M1, M2, M3, and so on. And here I'm taking at this moment display method, display name, because I want to display student details. So here class is the name, class name is student, and this class is having a constructor here, and constructor through I initialize the values to the variables, and I'm taking method, this method through I'm displaying the student details. And now you can see S equals to student. When we create object to the class, who will execute by default? Constructor. After constructor execution, these values will be initialized to these variables. Then next, what we have to do, display method. Def display method. Display method, you know very well, method will execute only when we call. If we don't call these methods, method will not execute. So did I call any method now? No. Let's run this one. Nothing will happen in this case. But method you should call. But how to call this method? Normally in previous examples, Python function oriented, we just create a function and we call them by its name. But here we have to call with the name only, but this function is present in where? Inside the class. Who will represent this class? S will represent the class. So we have to call the method using object name s.display. So when we call this display method, and we are getting the result, student ID, student name, student address, like this one. Got my point? So this is what same structure of program we will be continuing in tomorrow session onwards, because this is the class creation, this is the constructor, this is the method, this is an object reference, and this object too we are calling methods only here. So same scenario, I'm going to show you all the examples. Try to understand. This is the basic structure of object-oriented programming of Python. Class this is, constructor this is, method this is. Constructor name is always underscore underscore init underscore underscore. This is initialization part. Method name can be of any name, not only display. You can take M1 also, M2 also, M3 also, like this. And constructor is having always first parameter, that is self. It's compulsory. And display method, any method also having first parameter is self. Self is required. Self is used to access current class members. And moreover, self will work inside the class only. Inside the class means you can see indentation level. This is inside the class. Self will work only inside the class. Self will not work outside the class. Outside the class means here. Here self will not work. Who will work here? Object will work. Object name. So if you want to access anything of the class members or class information, and you have to access in outside the class using object reference only. Within the class, if you want to access using self through, we can access easily. So this is the basic structure of object-oriented programming. Today, what I discussed. In tomorrow's session, I'll give you full clarity. What is this, and what is the difference between constructor and method? What are the rules and regulations are there constructor? When it is called by default, and how many objects we can create to the class. For every object, constructor will execute or not, and method we can call any number of times. These are all details I'll give you full clarity in tomorrow's session clearly. Okay, so that's all for today. So this is the basic structure of console object-oriented programming. You will see many programs same structured in upcoming sessions also. Okay, yes. And Mr. Vishnu, please give the confirmation. Do you want to attend 8 a.m. Django also? Yes, means I'll send the link today.
I have one question. Can I join after we complete the Python course?
Yeah, you can. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't want to mix up both. I'm a little bit new to programming, so I don't want to put pressure on myself.
Sure, no problem. If you join completely after completion of Python means, so that I can remove your mail from this Django 8 a.m. The reason is you need not to get the videos at this moment. Already I sent that videos. You can basic videos. I can remove.
So how long it will take for you to complete Python? I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, that's what here. Today I have started advanced Python. No, it takes minimum 20-25 sessions are required. After that, we'll start with the Django morning 7 a.m.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So I'll just stay in Python for now, and after that I'll start the Django. Okay.
Sure. No issues.
Were you able to share? Were you able to share the material for Python to my
Yeah,
email address?
I have already shared. And all core Python videos also have shared.
Okay. Yes, I see a few emails. Just want to make sure it is all what you shared. Okay, cool.
Yes. Core Python videos I have completely sent yesterday up to what I took, and core Python material also I sent to your mail. And even I thought that you are going to join Django 5-6 completed sessions completed. That also I have said, and Django material also said. No problem. Keep it with you. Then whenever we complete this Django or Python advanced, then we will go for Django at 7 a.m.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And Sweta, you don't want to join 8 a.m. Django? Means I'll cut your mail from here. Okay. Yeah. Once after finishing this advanced Python, we'll think about Django at 7 a.m. You people are having some time problem, I think so. No problem. Whatever I committed in the beginning session, I'll go through it 7 a.m. Django. No issues.